Good day, everyone. Our topic for today is about Shakespearean sonnet, Shakespearean drama, and the story of Romeo and Juliet.
Shakespearean sonnet, or also known as the Elizabethan or English sonnet, is a variation of the Italian sonnet tradition. The form evolved in England during and around the time of Elizabethan era. Now let us talk about the elements of a Shakespearean sonnet. It has 14 lines long that is divided into 4 subgroups. The first 3 subgroups with 4 lines each is called the quatrains. The second and fourth line contains rhyming words. Shakespearean sonnet concludes with a 2-line subgroup rhyming with each other. Proceeding with the structure of a Shakespearean sonnet. It has a rhyme scheme. The fourth and final part of the sonnet is 2 lines long with rhyming words is called as the couplet. An iambic pentameter is a rhyme scheme in which a sonnet line consists of 10 syllables. It is also a type of words that alternate short and long syllables to create a rhythm. A rhythm is measured by groups of syllables called feet. An iamb is a short and stressed syllable followed by a longer and stressed syllable. And a blank verse is an unrhymed iambic pentameter. Now let us talk about the difference between a Shakespearean sonnet and a Petrarchan sonnet. Starting with their form, a Petrarchan sonnet has 14 lines with 2 divisions called octave and sestet. The octave is the first 8 lines and the sestet is the final 6 lines. The octave is involved with 2 rhyme schemes and the sestet involves 2 or 3 rhyme schemes. Meanwhile, a Shakespearean sonnet has 14 lines divided into 3 quatrains and a couplet. They are also different in terms of their focus. A Petrarchan sonnet are traditionally written from the point of view of a man longing for a woman to reciprocate his love. And a Shakespearean sonnet commonly uses the 3 quatrains to reflect on a given situation. And now let us talk about the 4 types of sonnet, starting with Italian sonnet. It is commonly known as the Petrarchan sonnet, named for Francesco Petrarch, and a lyrical poet of the 14th century in Italy. In an Italian sonnet, there's a volta or turn, which signals a change from the proposition of the poem to its resolution. The volta usually appears in the 9th line. Second is the English sonnet. It is the second most common form of the sonnet and is widely known as the Elizabethan or Shakespearean sonnet. The volta appears in the 3rd quatrain and has a traditional rhyme schemes. The third one is the Miltonic sonnets by John Milton, who went on to make a few refinements to the Italian sonnets. Lastly, the Spenserian sonnet by the 16th century English poet Sir Edmund Spenser, who did his best to make some refinements. It contains 3 quatrains and a couplet.
So our next topic for this lesson is about Shakespearean drama. So we all know that William Shakespeare is one of the greatest writers in English literature. So his plays are generally categorized as comedy, tragedy, and histories. So according to the first volume, there are a collection of 36 Shakespeare's plays published in 1623 by his colleagues. Besides the 36 plays in the first volume, Shakespeare also wrote Pericles and the Two Noble Kinsmen with John Fletcher and a 39th play entitled Cardenio, which is a lost play. So first types of Shakespeare play is comedy. Shakespeare's comedy usually contains playful elements like satiric language, the use of puns, and metaphors as well as dramatic storylines. So what are the characteristics of his comedy? So first, it involves the element of love or lust whereby young lovers are struggling to overcome obstacles. So these obstacles are typically brought about by the elders, often parents or guardians of the lovers. So it causes the lovers to separate, thus they must find their way back together in the end. Secondly, family tension that are usually resolved in the end. For instance, a family conflict wherein there is separation and at the end they are reunited. Third one is mistaken identity. So this is one of Shakespeare's favorite and most used plot devices. He also used gender mix-ups and often had characters masquerading as the opposite sex, leading to many misunderstandings and comical situations. Fourth, it always involves multiple plot lines cleverly intertwined to keep the audience guessing. Also, the use of puns. So, all his comedies are filled with puns and witty language, sometimes silly, bawdy, yet always clever. Moreover, Shakespeare also relied heavily on stock characters, so you'll notice several that keep appearing in the bard work: the young couple, the fool, the clever servant, the drunk, and etc. These stock characters were instantly recognizable stereotypes to Elizabethan audiences. And lastly, all his comedies end happily, wherein love always wins at the end. So these are the plays that are classified as comedy and you may check it. So secondly is Shakespearean tragedy. So it contains a heroic figure, a man of noble with a fatal flaw. So this is more serious, dramatic plots with an ending that involves the death of the main character. So this often includes a reversal of fortune. For instance, the story of Macbeth, wherein Macbeth's fortune is changed when others turn against him and his power and life are taken. So these are the characteristics of Shakespearean tragedy. First, it is always one-man show. However, he used much number of characters, but the focus always remained on the hero. Other characters also experience rise and fall, but the hero remains pivotal figure in the whole play. Secondly, is the social status of a hero. In his tragedies, the hero is from outstanding social status, and the heroes are same like the Greek and Roman heroes. Also, there is a social breakdown between the characters. There is a tragic fall of hero wherein it depicts suffering of a hero causing his tragic death. Initially, characters make an error of judgment that causes sufferings. So in some tragedies, other characters also face tragic deaths like hero, like in the case of Othello, in which innocent Desdemona was murdered. Or in short, there is a tale of suffering and calamity conducted to death. Okay, so these are the tragedies written by Shakespeare and you may check. So third play is Shakespeare Histories. So this focuses on historical monarch as main character. It dramatizes the Hundred Years' War between France and England, usually play upon Elizabethan propaganda showing the dangers of civil war and glorifying the Queen's Tudor ancestors. The characteristics of Shakespearean history is that most are set in times of medieval English history, and secondly, Shakespearean provides social commentary through his characters and plots, and history plays say more about Shakespeare's own time than the medieval society in which they are set. So these are the histories written by William Shakespeare, and we have to take note that the plays Coriolanus, Julius Caesar, and Antony and Cleopatra are classified both as tragedies and as Roman histories.
Next is Romeo and Juliet. I'll be discussing the summary of the novel Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. This novel is a tragic love story. Two wealthy families, the Montagues and the Capulets, had another brawl in the city of Verona. Romeo Montague and his friend gatecrashed a Capulet party, and Romeo met Juliet Capulet. He fell in love with her instantly. Romeo Montague and Juliet Capulet are supposed to be sworn enemies due to their families' ongoing conflict, but fell in love with each other. Friar Lawrence is a key character in the story. He is a Franciscan monk who lives in the countryside near Verona. He performed the marriage of Romeo and Juliet. He gave good pieces of advice. Romeo celebrates his marriage with his friends, Mercutio and Benvolio, but gets into a fight with Juliet's cousin, Tybalt. Tybalt killed Mercutio, and Romeo avenged with death by killing Tybalt. Romeo escaped and banished for killing Tybalt. Lord Capulet, Juliet's father, decided that she should marry Count Paris. However, Juliet refused and went to Friar Lawrence. They come up with a plan so that Romeo and Juliet will be together. Juliet faked her death and lay entombed waiting for Romeo to come so they can run away together. Romeo didn't receive the message about the plan. He went to Verona and sees Juliet in her tomb. He was devastated, thinking that Juliet is already dead. Romeo took a poison so he can be with Juliet in death. Suddenly, Juliet woke up and discovered that Romeo is dead. Juliet picked Romeo's dagger and used it to kill herself. Due to this tragedy, the Montagues and the Capulets vow to never argue again. So that is the summary of Romeo and Juliet. The genre of this novel is tragedy. The setting is in Verona, Italy. The writing style that was used in this novel is poem. Poem, a blank verse, unrhymed iambic pentameter. So now let's meet the characters. First, we have Romeo. Romeo is a teenage son of the Montague family who are busy feuding with the Capulets. Juliet. Juliet Capulet, on the cusp of 14 years old, falls in love with Romeo, the son of her family's enemy. Friar Lawrence is a Franciscan friar and a mentor to Romeo and Juliet. He secretly marries them, hoping to broker peace between the two families. The nurse. The widowed nurse is a loyal companion to Juliet, having cared for her since she was a baby. Mercutio. Mercutio is a relative of the Prince of Verona and a close friend to Romeo. And Tybalt. Tybalt is a nephew of Lady Capulet and Juliet's cousin. The nurse also considered him her best friend. The symbols used in Romeo and Juliet. So these are poison, thumb biting, queen mab, lighting and darkness, heat, nighttime. First, we have poison. It symbolizes not only the judicial instrument used by Romeo and Juliet, but it also symbolizes the feud between the Montagues and Capulets. Thumb biting. During the Elizabeth era, thumb biting was seen to be an act and mockery and call to fight. Queen Mab, as mentioned by Mercutio before they went to the party in a fairy that comes to those who dreamed at night. The light and darkness. The contrast between light and darkness symbolizes the characters of Romeo and Juliet. Heat. Before the brawl that Tybalt and Romeo had, Benvolio mentioned that it was a very hot day. Nighttime. A pattern observed in the play is that most of the troubles and challenges faces are set in the nighttime. And these are the other symbols used in the novel Romeo and Juliet. Silver and gold, blossoms of tragedy, fire, stars, rose, and mask. And that ends this discussion.